everybody, welcome back. Today we are talking about number patterns. We are finally into number patterns. So we're going to be looking today at how patterns can show themselves in number sequences. So first of all, a number sequence is just a group of numbers that are in order, and you are going to figure out the pattern for those numbers and how they are increasing, okay? So first of all, a number pattern is just the same thing as a regular pattern. It's when the rule repeats itself again and again and again. For number patterns, though, our rule is just how much are those numbers increasing or decreasing by. So either they're going up in numbers or they're going down in numbers. So we're going to be looking at our first number sequence today. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, and then we have a blank, and we have 18. So we are trying to figure out how much these numbers are going up by in this number sequence to figure out the missing number. The first thing we have to find is the rule. When trying to find the rule for number patterns, we have to ask ourselves, are we getting bigger or are the numbers getting smaller? If the numbers are going and getting bigger and they're growing like 3 to 6 to 9, then there are two options. It can either be plus or it can be multiplication. So we can either add to get bigger or multiply to get bigger. And we all know that. So let's figure out, is this an adding rule or is this a multiplication rule? First thing we have to figure out is how do we get from 3 to 6? So we're going to see, is there a way to get from 3 to 6 with adding? Yes, let's find out what that is. If we did this rule, it would be 3, put 3 in your head and count up to 6 to figure out how much it takes to get there. 3, 4, 5, 6. It took us 3 to get from 3 to 6. The thing with the rule is that it has to stay the same for all the numbers. So then let's see if that same rule, plus 3, works for 6 plus 3 to get to 9. 6, 7, 8, 9. It does. So then let's see, does it work from 9 to 12? 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, it's working. So plus 3 is going to be our rule here. And then if the plus is not working, then I would try multiplication to see if it's a multiplication pattern, okay? So this is a normal addition pattern. These are typically what you're going to see more of, adding and subtracting patterns. The multiplication and division patterns are a little bit harder. We'll talk about those at the end of the video. So for this, the rule is plus 3. So in order to find the missing number, we have to add 3 to 12. So 12, put 12 in your head or grab 12, 12, 13, 14, 15. So our missing number here is 15. And then that would also work with 18 because 15 plus 3 is 18. 15, 16, 17, 18. So our rule is plus 3. Always write the rule down so you don't forget it, okay? Now let's look at a different number sequence. As you can see here, the numbers are decreasing. They're getting smaller. That means that we're either going to be subtracting or dividing. I would always start out with the easiest one, which is subtraction. If subtraction is not working, then try division. But subtraction is going to be your best bet for most of the times when you're decreasing, okay? You might see some division, but most of the time it's either going to be adding or subtracting. And when we get smaller, we want to try subtraction first. All right, let's see. Are we decreasing here? 15 to 13. So I'm trying to find how much we're getting smaller by. What do those two things equal? How do I figure out between 15 and 13? How much did it take to get from 15 to 13? You can do two things. You can either do 15 minus 13 on a piece of paper and find the difference that way, or you can find the difference by putting 13 in your head and counting up to 15 or counting back from 15 to 13. Either way. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. I'm going to put 13 in my head and count up to 15 to see the difference. 13, 14, 15. It took me 2 to get there. Or you could do 15, 14, 13. Either way, it's 2. So we are looking at our rule being minus 2. Let's see if that's true for 13 minus 2. 13 take away 2. 13, 12, 11. Looking good so far. Let's see if 11 minus 2 equals 9. 11, 10, 9. Yep, looking good. And then we have a blank here. So our rule is minus 2. We've got that rule down. Let's figure out what would go here in this blank. 9 minus 2. Well, I have 9 fingers, so I can just do the subtraction on my fingers now. 9 minus 2 is 7. And then we can see if that rule works for 7 to 5. 7 minus 2 is 5. So that is the correct number. missing from our number sequence. Let's look at a little bit of a challenge here, okay? Here we see the numbers are getting bigger, so we know we're either going to be adding or multiplying to get bigger, okay? Let's try and see if adding will work first. So from 1 to 2, well, it takes 1 more to get from 1 to 2. So 1, 2. So it took plus 1. So now we're going to do 2 plus 1 and see what that gives us. 2 plus 1 is 3. It's not looking good because that's not the same answer. But let's see if 4 plus 1 would work there. 4 plus 1 would not give us 8. So it's not adding. The adding rule here is not working. So we're going to look at our other option for increasing, which is multiplication. Let's figure out how many times does it take to get from 1 to 2. What do I have to multiply by 1 to get to 2? If I multiply 1 times 1, that does not equal 2. But 1 times 2 does equal 2. So we're timesing by 2 here, okay? Our rule is times 2. Let's see if that rule works for 2 to 4. Does 2 times 2 equal 4? Well, let's see. 2, 4. It does. Then let's see, does 4 times 2 equal 8? 2, 4, 6, 8. It does. So then we're going to do 8 times 2 to get our next number. So 8 times 2, I'm going to skip count by 2 8 times. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So 16 is going to be our next number in this number sequence. And if we wanted to continue this pattern even further, we would do 16 times 2. And if you want to try to pause this video and figure it out real quick, you can. 16 times 2 would be 32. So that would be our next number. And then we could just keep on going with that pattern forever and ever and ever because the numbers just keep on going. Next, we are going to look at a decreasing pattern. So we know here that it's either going to be subtraction or division. Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. If you start to see, you start with a pretty big number and you start to see it go down super quick, like this, we went from 81 to 3 in just 4 steps, that's not going to be subtraction because you are just decreasing by way too many for this just to be subtraction, okay? If we did 81 minus 27, that would give us a number here, but we can tell right now that number is going to be way higher than it would be possible to subtract 27 to get to 9, okay? So let's just assume that subtraction is not going to work, and let's try division. This is the part of the pattern that can be confusing. When you are dividing and trying to find a division or multiplication rule, I will give you the hint that you don't have to start at the big numbers. You can actually start anywhere in the pattern because it's going to be true for all of them, okay? So I'm going to pick the 2 smallest numbers here and figure out 9 divided by what equals 3, okay? So first, I'm going to divide 9 by 3 to see how many each person would get. So I would do 3 equal groups. I would draw 3 circles and divide 9 into those groups, and they would each get 3. So that tells me that my rule here is dividing by 3. And then I can say, well, you know what? 27 divided by 9, let's see what that works out to be. Or 27 divided by 3. Let's do that just to double check and make sure that the rule is working. So draw 3 circles and split up 27 between each of those 3 circles, and you're going to get 9 in each group, which is exactly what this number is. So we know that dividing by 3 is working. So that is our rule here. 81 divided by 3 is 27, and we didn't even have to touch that, really, to figure this out. We just looked at the smaller numbers. So my advice is work with the smaller numbers in your patterns for multiplication and division. It's going to be a lot easier to find your rule that way. Next, let's find our missing blank. 3 divided by 3. So if I have $3 and I'm splitting it between 3 people, I wonder how much they're each going to get. Draw 3 circles and put 1 in each circle to get to 3. How much did they each get? 1. That's because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So like I said before, I want you to try adding and subtracting first to find your rules. And if those don't work, then you can try multiplication and division. Multiplication and division, the numbers are going to be really big. And that's also going to be a good sign that you're going to be multiplying or dividing in your rule. But for the most part, you're going to be dealing with adding and subtracting rules in 3rd grade. And you might see more intense rules as you get into older grades. If you need any help at all, please feel free to reach out and I would be more than happy to help. Thanks, guys.